Hello and welcome back to the Transform Awards Europe 2026. Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by Bridget McMullen, who is the founder and managing director at the Workroom. Now, Bridget, you guys were shortlisted in 4 categories for last week's awards, and you came home with a really impressive 3 golds and 1 silver from your work with Norwex. But you also scooped up the best overall visual identity, which is no mean feat. So first of all, congratulations. That's really, really impressive.
Thank you.
I think first of all, I'd like to have a little chat about the Workroom. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about you guys as an agency and what you specialize in, but also the philosophy that you work to.
Sure.
Maybe you tell me a bit about that.
Yeah. So I think one of the important things about the way we work, or a sort of mantra that we like to use for how we approach projects, is this idea of deeper, clearer, and bolder. So those 3 ideas, they speak to how we tackle the various aspects of creating brands. So deeper obviously talks to the research piece and the strategy piece, and making sure we really understand the client really well, and the business and its people and the environment they work in, so the whole marketplace. The clearer speaks to this idea of being very succinct and distinctive in the definition of what the brand stands for. So that's both in language and expression. And then the bolder bit is all about how we help to sort of take that brand to market. That can be both from a sort of cultural and a commercial perspective. All 3 of those, of course, also speak to the creative output at the end of the day as well.
Absolutely. It seems to be a really successful philosophy that you keep to. An example of that was your work with Norwex. Perhaps first of all, you could tell me a little bit about the clients.
Yeah, so Norwex is a very unusual business. It's a family-founded business. They were an eco-pioneer back in the 90s. They developed and really were one of the first in the marketplace to use or build and make the Enviro cloth, or the microfiber cloth. And the whole idea behind that is to reduce the use of harmful chemicals in the home. So I would consider them to be a sort of eco-pioneer back in the day, and it was founded by a Norwegian founder called Bjorn. His daughter has now stepped up as chief exec, Beata, and they have built a very impressive network of direct selling consultants. So they take their product direct to market. It's not available yet or in retail environments. So it's a very specific kind of network, a way of selling which is very common, especially in North America and Canada, but also adds a sort of extra complexity to what we do, because we need to make sure that the consultants are on side, and because they're the ones who go out and sell.
Absolutely. And tell me about the project itself. So what do you feel enabled you guys to be able to transform Norwex in the manner you did?
I think transforming the Norwex brand required us to do 3 things, really. 1, develop and build a very good relationship with the senior management team. We needed to get Beata, the new chief exec, who had stepped up recently, who was the daughter of the founder, and it was obviously her vision in order to make these changes. But it's very important that you understand the senior leadership team, you have time with them, you develop their trust, so that they believe in your process and they trust the process. And then I guess the second aspect of that is doing our homework thoroughly. So that idea of the deeper that I mentioned before, I think really getting under the skin of the brand, the business, its people, the whole business model, the way it works, and then really getting to grips with that sort of external marketplace as well, understanding the competitive set, looking broader even than their obvious peer group members, identifying that opportunity in the market they hadn't tapped into yet. So doing all of that work thoroughly makes an absolutely massive difference. And that's about the process, the methodology. It's about getting that 360-degree insight and perspective for a business. And then the third piece, I guess, is bringing that all to life through, the strategy, the definition, being clear about the definition, coming up with something that's very distinctive, even if it only moves the business on and the brand on incrementally from where it was. Those nuances can make a huge difference, both in the language and then, of course, using that as your platform for creative development. So that's the springboard for everything that then follows, all the creative output.
Absolutely, and obviously it was a really complicated project, and as you mentioned, a really layered project. But what did you find to be the biggest challenge along the way?
There are, with any branding project, there are multiple challenges. It's never necessarily just one main thing, I would say. So in this case, there are, I guess I'd pinpoint a number of things. I think the first thing is that it's a family-run business. So understanding the sensitivities of the family and the leadership team to their understanding and their passion about what they'd grown themselves in 30 years, and being very sensitive to helping to move their perspective on, to think about, well, how can this business evolve? How does the brand need to support a new business objective, a new wave of energy, for sort of thing. So I think, and there are always sacred cows. There are always things that the family are extremely passionate about because they've grown up with them. They're literally ingrained with what that business and the brand stands for. The mission in particular, this idea of reducing harmful chemicals in the home, which we've expanded into a slightly bigger idea now. So I think the question was challenges, wasn't it? So taking the family on the journey is a challenge. Also, I think making sure that whatever we did was going to be fully embraced by their consultant sellers, who are mostly women, not all, mostly women, young mums who work from home, and this gives them a proper sort of financial or an extra financial mattress, if you like, backbone to the way they live. And they're extremely important to a company like Norwex. So we needed to make sure that they were on board during the journey and could fully embrace and be proud of this new brand to take to market. So I guess those were, there are other challenges as well. For instance, the complexity of the product portfolio and making sure that what we did could straddle extremely different categories, from cooking cleaner and cloths right over to eye serum. They're like polar opposite types of product. So the brand work that we did needed to be able to sit above all of that, to encompass all of it and still be coherent. So that was another big challenge.
Absolutely. And just finally, it was such a immensely successful project, picking up the best overall visual identity, as we mentioned. And actually, it was a project that resulted in an identity that was more modern and beautiful, according to judges. But how do you think your work tees Norwex up for the future?
Yeah, it is more modern and beautiful as an output, of course, but to us that's really, that's only one part of why it's important for Norwex, for growth, because obviously going to market and engaging with people to be able to sell product and get their message across, all of that is true in terms of adding modernity, making it feel more premium. Getting back to the authenticness of being Norwegian was absolutely at the heart of what we did, and we did loads of research about what that actually means, and then of course what that actually looks like to adjacent but slightly different things. So I think the branding process, because it's very in-depth, and because you spend a lot of time crafting the definition and the words and the language that's used, and even, you know, what is the Nordic personality like, and that comes across now in their communications and through the brand, etc. So I think it's a much bigger platform for growth than just the end product and what it looks like. Yes, that's fantastic and beautiful, of course. Now it makes it a more desirable product. But it has to be imbued with all of those positive messages that come across through its mission as well. This whole idea of reducing chemicals, harmful chemicals that we're exposed to every day. And I think that's a much bigger idea than just the visual identity and the design, which of course helps.
No, absolutely right. Bridget, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and many congratulations again.
Thank you very much. That's kind.